Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
But we're going to move on right now, if we will, to Paulina Howfield. Paulina Howfield is an earth whisperer, a light worker, energy encoder, and an esoteric map maker. For many years, Paula has been helping people discover deep knowledge about the planet and find meaning and relating to our planet at a soul level. So the title of her talk is Emerging Energies and the Galactic Consciousness. So Paulina, welcome.
Thanks, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here to be part of the Global Transformation Festival. I'm going to be talking particularly about how to develop galactic consciousness in harmony with the Earth, because I think that's really important at this time. I actually think it's been important ever since the beginning of time, but with everything that's going on with the current understanding of higher frequencies, the existence of different realms, and the veils between worlds getting thinner, it's a great time to connect with the Earth and start to understand a little bit more about how you can do that if you're not already doing that. Behind me, you can see an image of rocks, and this is a place that's called it's called Hanging Rock, and it's very connected to a story that was written, a novel that was written, and then 2 films have been made about this rock. The first one was called Picnic at Hanging Rock, as was the second one. The first one was made in the 1970s, and the other one was made a few years back with a slightly updated version about the relationships between people. And this is a place that's in Victoria, and it's a few hours from Melbourne, and it's a very ancient rock outcrop that has, thanks Evan, that has an amazing energy pattern, and it invoked for the author of the book a sense of paranormal, a sense of other worlds. And when you're near this hanging rock, it is very much, you have a sense of that. Now, it was guarded by the Indigenous people and other cosmic guardians and elemental guardians. And the story of the history of it is quite tragic, and it's not my story to tell. But if you go and research it, you may discover information about what happened there and who's now looking after it within the Indigenous community, because there's been some shifts around it. And a few years ago, I was going to be doing a ceremony there, and I asked permission from the elders. A friend of mine helped me discover who those elders may be, because, as I said, it's transitioned in through ownership over a period of time. And I contacted them and asked them, would it be okay to take a group up there to do meditation on an equinox? For me, equinoxes and solstices are really important because they align us with celestial energies, our galactic forebears and ancestors, our galactic friends at this time on the planet. And also they enable each of us to connect in with the sun, the energy of the sun, and how it's impacting us at a cellular level. So I contacted them and asked them for permission, and they were very gracious and very kind. They were also very intrigued because, according to them, I was the first person ever that had asked them for permission to go on the land and to take a group there. And so this is something I always think is really important when we're going to be interacting with any land, not just a sacred site, meaning the way all of planet Earth is sacred, all of everything that she presents is sacred, but always ask permission. And if there are people in the physical human world who are the guardians, ask them. If there are people who are not physical and they come from the stars or they come from the elemental realms or whatever realms they come from, always ask permission, because these places have sacred energy templates and they have sacred space within them. And the guardians look after them, and they have protected them for many, many, many thousands of years, hundreds and thousands of years, since the beginning of this planet, and since they were first asked to be part of that ownership and guardianship. And so if you do go to a place ever, even in your own garden, treat it with honor. if you speak to a tree, if you speak to the rocks. And as you look at this picture, you may see or feel or get a sense that these stones and the trees are living beings. And everything on planet Earth is living. She is alive, she has a soul consciousness, and she has chakra nodes, she has subtle bodies, she has energy nodes. She and humanity are mirrors of each other. Every other living thing on our planet is in connection with that and understands that. Unfortunately, humanity has generally been separated from that awareness and that understanding. And we can trace that back to eons of things that have happened on this planet in relation to how humanity has interacted with the land and the fall of consciousness that is often talked about. But it's also about an understanding that has developed that we are not connected, that we are not part of the body of our planet. And yet we are. And for many years, Earth has been cleansing her field, she's been healing her subtle bodies, she has been raising her vibration in preparation for what is happening now. And people like me, and there's many of us around the planet, we've been assisting in that process. And so the frequencies and the templates of our planet, they have been prepared, retemplated, energized, encoded, and reactivated. And part of the work that I do is to work with galactic frequencies in the Earth and to assist in that process of helping humanity remember that we come from the stars, remember how to connect with the Earth, and remember how to develop our galactic consciousness. And with everything that's going on in our human psyches at this time and in our frequency changes and the veils thinning, the Earth is now in a place where she would love it if every single one of us on this planet could be part of that journey towards ascension and activation. So that's part of my invitation to each of you, is to, if you haven't already connected with the Earth, begin connecting with the Earth. If you are already connected with the Earth, begin to think about, do you have a deep memory within you? Does this comment activate a sense of purpose within you on how you can develop your ability to be a conscious participant in this journey we are undertaking towards galactic consciousness? Because when we look at our planet as a soul, when we look at her as a living, breathing being, and at everything else that exists on this planet as a living, breathing being, we're led on a journey back in time. We're led on a journey back to our ancient origins. We're led on a journey to the places on this gorgeous planet that have been visited by beings from other places, and they have left their calling cards. So we can then begin to take a personal journey into ancient cosmic memory. We can take a personal journey into starting to remember who we really are. It may include past life journeys. It may include present life journeys. It may include future life journeys. It may include understanding who your galactic ancestors are, not just your human ancestors. It may include recognizing how you connect with the Earth in a non-physical, invisible realm way. So things like understanding, are you a kinesthetic when you're talking about invisible realms? Are you someone who hears things in invisible realms? Do you feel things? Do you see things? Do you hear things? How do you do that? Start to develop that, because what then happens is you begin to form a connection with the Earth through the recognition that the invisible realms are there and that they are always communicating. And many of the guardians of these places, they work at such high frequencies, and they're embodying such high frequencies that their level of communication is not something that we would necessarily pick up on the 3D world, particularly the Western cultural humanity world. Because we've become so separate, we don't realize that everything is connected, that everything has a consciousness, and everything is communicating. So one of the things you can start to do as well is to drop into the heart. Often in the Western world, in order to make sense of how things are, we use our left brain, we use logic, we start to think about how we can do something. Can we change it? We develop meetings, we write programs, we design things in order to encourage the left brain to understand things. But Indigenous cultures all over the world have always used a heart connection and a subtle body connection and a higher frequency connection to interact. So they have so much that they can teach us and share with us. And if we can drop into the heart and begin to communicate in that way, and sometimes that communication is not about trying to talk to them in some way, it's about listening, it's about being present, it's about walking gently on the earth. And this is not connected to recycling stuff, it's not connected to looking after the earth and not rubbishing the earth. Those things are really, really important, but this is something different. This is about developing a relationship soul to soul with the earth and with all other beings. Because in my experiences, every place we go to, it's infused with those energies from other beings. And in other places, I've talked about how you can visit different sites and find the seedings, find the information that comes from those other places where visitors have been. So there are particular sites that are infused with Pleiadian energies from the Pleiadian visitors all over the world. And there are symbols that will be on the site. There are frequencies that you'll find in the rocks themselves or in the trees. And the guardians who are looking after these places will have a connection with them. You'll find places that are activated and infused with the energies from Sirius in certain countries. You'll find energies that are activated and infused with the energies of Cygnus or Andromeda or Arcturus or other places, many places in the galaxies where visitors have been interacting with these places, have worked with the frequencies and have left a calling card. And when many sacred sites were created, i.e. things were moved to create a sacred site, so in a standing circle, beings were involved in the placement of those energy frequencies and the standing stones, and they have infused and left a calling card. And the earth is asking us if we can start to become aware of how these things are really important to developing our galactic consciousness. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone's going to start doing what I do, and it doesn't mean that you should drop everything and try and get across to a sacred site. Firstly, there's ways that you can remote view without going to sacred sites. But it's really about the more you're connecting in, the more you're listening to the bird song in the morning, the more you are sitting on the earth and treating her with reverence, the more you spend time out in nature, the frequencies begin to shift within you. The frequencies of the earth begin to shift within you as well. And she recognizes that you are making attempts to connect with her heart to heart, soul to soul. And it is this frequency that the earth is asking us to participate in. And it may be that you place encoded frequencies, many of us do, or you work with the ley lines or the sacred energies, whatever it is. If you have a higher calling to do those things, work with the earth. Let her teach you what you can do and how to do it. And let those beings, that galactic frequency that helps us remember our star heritage, come into you through your heart. Because this helps you become an effective assistant in this collective and planetary journey of collective enlightenment. And we hear often about the process of ascension and what that may mean. And anyone you speak to will have a different way of discussing what ascension means. And that's great because we are all unique beings. We are all unique representations of consciousness experiencing itself and the planet experiencing herself through us. So we will each have different ways of explaining things. We will each have different ways of sharing our frequencies. But find out how you can work with or just be with the earth. I'm saying the word work, but actually it's about being. And when we're in deep, profound connection, the messages come through. And that's why it's good to know whether you feel things, hear things, or whether you see things. And the people who see things, what would be called the visuals, will often see light beings or Pleiadians or other galactic beings or Devic beings present. People who hear things may hear voices speaking to them. And people who feel things will sense them. And they appear and interact with in your body and in your subtle bodies in different ways. So the more you become aware of that, that helps you connect to the earth and connect to the galactic frequencies. But what it also does is helps you lift your frequencies, helps you become aware of what a different frequency is sharing with you. So Pleiadian frequencies are often very connected to the energy of the sun. Now, in a way, Sirian frequencies are connected to the sun as well, but they present themselves different ways. And it can be that they present themselves in different ways simply by being connected to a different ray of consciousness. We have different rays of consciousness that we connect into non-physical matter with, and they're predominantly red, orange, yellow, blue, green, indigo, and violet. That's a very basic interpretation of them, but they're different colored rays. And each of us come in on different colored frequency rays for service. And that also dictates doesn't dictate, but it's also part of how we interact with the different beings, the earth elementals, gnomes, fairies, trolls, pixies, and then the earth elementals, the air elementals, the fire elementals, and the water elementals can be connected to our ray of consciousness or our ray of service. So establish what your ray of service is. So I'm offering different ways that can help you develop your own way of communicating with the Earth Mother. And also remember, when you're standing on this glorious planet and sitting, whatever you're doing, whether you're in a high-rise building, whether you're in a car, whether you're swimming in the ocean, whether you're working in an office, whatever you are doing, underneath you is our Mother Earth. She is always with us. She is always connected. And you can reach your roots down into the earth and welcome her frequencies into your body and pull them up and ground yourself. You can take those energies through your body and up out through the top of your head and welcome out to Father Sky and the connection in the galactic realms. So many things that you can do to participate in this understanding of galactic consciousness. And if you have a place near you that you really love to go, and it may be a park where you can ride a bicycle around, it may be the ocean, it may be a large forest, it may be where there's a few rocks. Just allow yourself to go. And if you're in a flat or a unit and you can't get out to the universe, look out the window. Let the birds call out to you. Because while everything that's been going on in the last few years on the planet is the human species that is suffering. It is the human species that is finding things that are happening difficult. And people are looking without themselves for answers rather than within themselves for answers. And Mother Nature is still doing her thing. Mother Nature is still welcoming us to join in with her. Mother Nature is always connected. We came through her. We came through other places, but we came through her. She has loaned us our bodies. We will return them when we no longer need them. And the earth will continue whether we are here or not. But she wants us, each of us, to open our hearts to recognize our connection, our journey together, and the frequencies that are coming so that each of us can develop our galactic consciousness, reconnect with the earth at a higher frequency, and remember our star heritage. It is time for deep cosmic memory and connection at a soul level to who we are. Total soul recall. and collective conscious enlightenment is the process that we are currently under. So I think that's probably taken me to about 15 minutes. Not sure, maybe a little bit over, a little bit under. I do apologize. I hope that's, thank you very much.
So, I got lost in it, so I forgot the time too. Thank you so much, Paulina. That was words of wisdom. I loved it. Appreciate you very much.